So, Terry, my friend, we need to talk about negativity bias, don't we?
Hmm. Do we?
If we have to. Go on
Okay.
then.
Uh, I mean, these kind of things never go well.
No, that's right. I know. I've done it before and it wasn't good fun.
Okay. Well, should we
Yeah.
crack on?
Yeah, go on
Oh, shall we?
then. But
No,
do you know
anyway,
what?
what about this? What about this
Da-da-da.
negativity bias? Hey, yes. I was that for the congruency.
Do you know
Oh,
what?
what?
I do find bias really interesting, don't you?
Yes,
Genuinely. Yeah.
yes.
There's
I
so
mean,
many, isn't there?
apparently,
Yeah.
depending on what research you do, there's 168
Yeah.
different types of bias, different
Yeah.
levels of bias.
Yeah.
Now, what I would sound because I mentioned this on a practitioner course, and I covered about maybe four or five of the maybe a few more of the more prominent ones, if you like, the more interesting ones, if you like.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, 168, but and they all fit in when you think about it. They all fit into the three categories in NLP. It's delete. Well, actually, one
Hmm.
deletion.
Yeah.
For a bias to take place, you have to leave evidence to the contrary out.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
it does. So you can't have two separate beliefs that oppose each other in a bias at equal measure.
Now that's an interesting point that because according to well, again, it's been attributed to Einstein.
Yeah.
Um, the side of intelligence is the ability to hold two conflicting beliefs at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So you can be aware of the biases. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Hmm.
You can hold two conflicting beliefs. In fact, I was speaking to someone last week who said he was suffering from that, or when they
Yeah.
realised that you can actually hold two conflicting beliefs at the same time.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
he felt a lot better. He was less
Yeah.
negative about it.
Well, that's cool because actually sometimes I do find when coaching people that when people hold on to a belief so much and discard an opposing belief, I do find they become very combative and argumentative and unnecessarily prejudiced about certain things because they notice them more than they would do if they created a balanced view.
Yeah, absolutely. There's well, you're then arguing for your position, then, aren't you?
Yeah, to be right.
Rather than it becomes a win lose
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
game
yeah.
or a can do. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah, and there's so many people now who have this need to be right about things, and the world is right or wrong, and it's just you see it in politics, don't you? You see it in all sorts of
well,
things.
we're going to see it a lot more, I think.
Yeah, yeah, but it's just it's an unnecessary set of beliefs, isn't it? Really, I would have thought 'cause it's not a truth either.
No, it's not a truth, but it's particularly with the negativity bias. It's an evolutionary trait, isn't it?
Mm.
Going back to cavemen days.
Hmm.
Now, the example I often use is, or the way I explained it is, if you walked out the cave and you missed the berries on the tree,
Yeah.
um, and went back into your cave, you would live to eat another day.
Yeah.
You know, but if you walked out your cave and you missed the saber-toothed tiger sitting on the rock,
Hmm.
then you may not live to eat another day. You
Yeah.
become his lunch. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
have to be look, and I think we do it now. When we walk into any environment,
Hmm.
even on an unconscious level, we're asking ourselves. I said this so many times actually. I didn't know it was going to come out like this, but we're
Hmm.
always constantly asking ourselves, in some way, shape, or form, am I safe here? Let's,
Yeah.
for instance, when you're on a course,
Yes.
the person who's taking the course, does he know what he's talking about? Am I
Yeah.
am I all right here?
Yeah, is he going
So
to pick
therapy,
on me and
coaching,
expose my stupidity? It's all those sorts of things in your head, isn't it?
well, it's that but again, I still go back to this. Is this safe? Do I feel safe? Am I
Yeah.
safe with this coach? Am I
Mm.
safe with this therapist? Am I
Hmm.
safe with this teacher? Yeah. Have I got permission to be me? Have I got permission to ask questions, to be vulnerable
Yeah.
in some cases?
And do you find that sometimes some people replace fear with things like comfort? So they say, am I comfortable enough to be myself? Am I comfortable with the coach? Because then what happens is when people feel that they're not comfortable, they'll notice something and then they'll retaliate with that, the fight or flight. They'll be, blaming the coach, or they'll be aggressive towards the trainer or the leader, rather than just actually accepting the fact that they've made them feel uncomfortable, not because that was their intention, but that's because it's almost that's what they were heightened to look for.
It sounds like what you're saying. If I go into a course and I'm entrenched in my beliefs.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I've been told to go on a course, but I don't want to. And it's about
personal experience of that.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So Jill's been asked to go on this course by Joe, and Joe said, you've got to go on this course because we've got a bit of feedback about you that sometimes you can be a bit too direct, right? So you're going on this course about emotional intelligence. So, but that's not enough, is it? The leader needs to do better than that, to not tell someone why they're doing something wrong to go on a course. It should be, I'm inspiring you to go on this course because you will become more of this, this, and this, and selling it in a little bit more. So the negativity bias doesn't creep in and seep into their perception of the course and the course running, outcomes.
A great example of as I've got personal experience with. I'm going back.
Yeah.
2008 that's right, because it was just before the big crash. I was running a course on leadership for a housing company. Now, they were told that they had to be on this course. They didn't want to be on the course. It was right across the board. Like, there was directors, maintenance people, cleaners, you name it. They were all on this leadership course, and they were all told they had to attend by the directors, right? And because the directors were instigated the course, and these maintenance guys didn't want to be on the course, they came in with a particular attitude. So there was I don't want to be here. The directors are there. They're telling us one thing, that we should, for instance, watch our budget, but they're giving themselves 25% pay rise. I don't want to be in the same company as them, and I can't be honest with them. So that put a whole bias on the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And it was, for a lot of the time, it was a bit of an uphill struggle. I think it might be useful at this point as well to explain exactly what the negativity bias is.
Well, that's very funny you should say that, because the next thing I was going to ask you is that actually negative? Because negativity is quite a broad statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe negativity bias, if we explain what it is, I don't know, does it encompass other biases? Maybe.
Well, I'm sure it does to a degree, but it's a psychological phenomenon where negative events and thoughts and emotions have a more significant impact on our mental state than positive or even neutral ones.
Yeah.
And I say it was useful, really useful in its day, because it kept us alive. But now it can, in this day and age, it can lead to undue stress and anxiety and conflicts in our relationships even.
So sorry, just to interrupt you. So why does our brain focus more on negative events or discomfort or unhelpful events more than positive ones?
I would say it's on the lookout for negative events, right? Now, as to why, it will feed into some interesting research apparently. Now, I'm sure you come across this yourself, and it's usually in the form of a Facebook post or some management trope or whatever, management cliche or whatever. For every negative comment, it takes 10 positive.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
To nullify it or to get you through it a bit like. Right? Apparently, the latest research suggests for every negative comment, we need to offset it with at least 4.
Yeah.
4 to 1.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you wanted one of the takeaways, we might take from this podcast now, anyone who's listening, that if there's a negative thought or a negative event, okay,
Yeah.
try to think of, or let's say you got negative self-talk, which is,
Yeah.
you know, the inner critic, which is,
Mm.
you know, yeah, you know, think of, okay, let's say I'm not good enough, for instance,
Mhm.
right? Right. Okay, so think of 4 areas in my life where I am good enough.
Yes.
And it can be, it doesn't have to be related to the same context.
Mhm.
But as we're doing this, we're actually creating counterexamples to this belief,
Yes.
to this
Yeah.
bias.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Now,
Now,
to the people that might say, "But I'm making that stuff up,"
so
because
say
that's
that again.
what people will tend to do is if they hold on to a belief, let's say it's a negative belief of I'm not good enough, right?
Uh-huh.
So strongly for so long. If you were to do an exercise where you say write down 3 or 4 counter arguments where you are good enough, the argument to some of these people may be that they don't really believe it, they're just writing it down. Do you see what I mean?
Mhm. I would say,
Hmm.
because I've come across this before,
Yeah.
and maybe not in that, but and it might be a bit contentious. This
Hmm.
you don't have to believe it;
Yeah, that's
you
right.
just have to do.
Yeah, I know, and I say this all the time
Oh,
because,
good.
well, beliefs to me are almost. I know it sounds. This also sounds really weird. They're not really that important, right? If you go to bed tonight and believe that tomorrow you're going to go to the gym, right? And then you wake up in the morning and you go, well, I don't know, yeah, I could do, but I'm not. I'm a bit busy, so I want to go to the gym the next day. It's just a belief, doesn't mean anything. It's the actions that you take that actually create a string of outcomes that then create reality, really, don't they?
It's funny you use the gym as an example, and I use that example of um, over not allowing our feelings
Mm.
to take precedence
Yes,
over our actions.
yes.
You know, again, very, very quickly, when I had a layoff from the gym, I had to go, I hurt my shoulder. It was about, off for about six
I
months.
remember, yeah,
Yeah. And I'd grown a bin bag in front of my stomach.
yeah.
It's a bum bag rather, not a bin
Yeah,
bag.
yeah.
Yeah, could have been a bin bag actually. It's big enough. And I thought, and that was about, I better start doing something here.
Mm,
And I'd go, yeah, but I think, well, I don't want to spend 2 hours in the gym.
mm.
And I don't want, so cut a long story short, right? I made it as easy as possible to go to the gym.
Yeah,
So do you remember when I had that office in Liverpool, Colquitt
yeah,
Street?
yeah.
I went the gym that I joined was about a 10-minute walk.
Hmm.
Apparently, from when I had the health club, as you remember,
Hmm.
the research is yesterday. If it's any further than 15 minutes, you tend not to bother.
Right, yeah,
You
yeah,
can easy
yeah.
to put up. Anyway, so 10 minutes, I'd have my bag all set next morning. I'd be bag in the office, so it was all there. I
Hmm.
actually booked out that time, so I wouldn't see a client after 4 o'clock on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Mm,
So it made it easier,
yeah,
made it the easy thing to do. Here's the point. Here's the point of getting to. Even then, I'd be walking to the gym and I'd be going, "Yeah, do I want to do this?
yeah, yeah,
Oh God, no,
yeah.
it's raining, you're hungry, you haven't had your dinner, you're not going to be able to do anything. And
That's right.
blah 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 blah. Right up to I'd be in the gym time with put my trainees on and going into which the class that I was doing was MetaFit, and it was half an hour,
Hmm.
bang on, done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. But I still say this, even before the music started, I'd be going, do 1 hour, do 1 half an hour of this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, again, this is the thing. There's a negativity that,
Mm.
oh, do you want this, man? You don't have to say, you're not obliged to believe it. You're not
True. That's
obliged to
true.
take notice of it,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And I know after that session, I felt so good afterwards,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know. So you all have to say it's a really good example. Yeah.
yeah.
But to talk about beliefs, sorry, we were talking about beliefs before.
Yeah.
Well, but people tend to think of beliefs as facts,
Yes.
and they're not.
No.
The conclusions that we come to,
Mm,
generalizations we've made
mm.
as a result of past experience.
Yeah.
So, if let's say you've had 2 or 3 incidents with a particular leader or a particular manager,
Yeah.
and they haven't been as good as they might be,
hmm
then you'll set up this bias. Well, every time I see him, there's always something wrong or whatever it might be, right?
That's right.
And a belief that this fellow's a miserable so and so or whatever it might be. But and you've heard me say this so many times before. Your nervous system acts as though it's true. Like there's no counter examples.
Yes.
It was bad then. It's bad now. It's always going to be bad in the future.
Right.
Same with that one. I'm not good enough. It was never good enough in the past. Not good enough now. Never good enough in the future. Your brain doesn't make, your nervous system doesn't make that distinction whether it's future, past, present. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So doesn't that then mean that distortion, then that deletion then turns into a distortion and a generalization
Well,
eventually?
it's a generalization, and in order for it to be a generalization, it has to delete information that's contrary to the generalization.
That's right. Yeah.
Which in itself becomes a distortion.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So in a sentence, what is a negative bias then? It's a way of looking at something that
it's a oh, go on, you go on.
No, go on. No, you cover it.
It's a way of looking at the world,
other
people, ourselves, in a negative way, as you just said.
In an unresourced way, an unhelpful way almost. I can't think of I can think of one or two moments where being negative might be helpful.
Well, you just did something on the nail on the head there, because it's a myth that you shouldn't be negative.
That's
think positive all the time. I nearly said something else then. It's flipping dangerous.
Yes.
We know from personal experience what blind positive thinking, Pollyanna thinking does.
Yeah.
We were in a certain place for a certain time, weren't we, many years ago?
Yeah.
And it was think positive, right? Now I like Tony Robbins' distinction with this. There's a difference between thinking positive, like I look at my garden, right? And it needs mowing.
That's right.
And there's weeds, right? If I look at my garden and go, do you know what? My garden's great, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
pristine.
Yeah.
Fantastic, right? Do you remember that? Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's positive. I call it positive delusion.
Correct.
Right. Positive development is okay. My garden's got weeds and it needs a bit of love and care. It needs a bit of TLC. I better get my lawnmower out the first day it's dry and give it some mowing and get me gloves on. That makes sense. Do some work on it. Big difference.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting one as well, because I find this a lot with people's health. It's funny how lots of people like to have a negative bias around other things, but when it comes to them and ownership of things that are important, people will discard their health and the way they eat and the things that they eat, and they'll go, "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be okay." You know what I mean? And it's like, well, actually, if you actually stopped and looked at yourself and got a health check, you'd know that it's not okay, and you need to be realistic about your health rather than deluded that, oh, I'll die eventually anyway, so what's the point? Well, the point is you can live a fulfilling long-term life and really enjoy stuff rather than just consuming the things that are bad for you because it's a hedonistic approach to what you enjoy.
Yeah, rather than negativity, that's more delusion.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
We'll delude ourselves to some degree.
Yeah, but also it's lack of sometimes we don't like being accountable for ourselves or things, do we?
Well, it's sometimes it's the work, isn't it, you have to put in.
Correct. Right. And that goes back to feelings again, because discipline isn't pleasant, is it?
Yeah. Well, it sometimes it's not pleasant. Doesn't mean to say it has to be unpleasant.
There you go. There's the neutral. Yeah.
But it's interesting. When we're working with people with trauma, one of the sort of
triggers?
No, not triggers so much, but one of the healing factors, if you like, healing 101, if you like, is establish a routine, establish a discipline.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Even if it's simple.
Yeah.
One routine. Something you do this.
So just get out of bed at a set time every day.
Yeah. Someone I was working with not so long ago, she would get out of bed at a certain time. She'd have a checklist and she'd tick it off 5
Yeah.
minutes on the elliptical machine,
Yeah.
whatever it might
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
10
Breakfast
minutes
for so and so.
meditation,
Yeah.
5 minute breakfast, whatever it might be.
Sure.
But it was that thing that kept it, that kept it going.
Does that mean, is that because you're breaking a pattern, an old pattern that wasn't helping to create, and
You're
you're creating a new one?
establishing a new one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Taking control back.
Now, here's the thing again, the negativity bias kicks in, which, oh, yeah, but it's not going to work, is it? Nothing ever works for me. Well, up to now, yeah, no, because you haven't done this. But if you carry on doing it, then you'll begin to notice the differences.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's important to note as well that a certain amount of, we're not eradicate, we don't want to just go on from what we were talking about before. We don't want to eradicate negativity. We can't.
No, that's right.
At times it's useful
Mm-hmm.
because you want to, if you've got a team, then you want someone who maybe has a bias towards the negative to maybe highlight the risks.
Well, yeah, if you're climbing Everest, you don't want to just go, "Oh, it'll be great, mate. Climbing shoes, don't need those, we'll be fine." You know what I mean?
I've got I'll put 2 coats on.
That's right, yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, and you better get some decent shoes in that. Yeah.
No, those Crocs will be fine, Terry.
Flip-flops. I remember, you might remember, I used to do promotions before I was a coach. I was doing promotions for small companies, small businesses, and one business or one industry I used to do a lot of promotions for were health and beauty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before the days of Groupon, I used to have these cards that would have a number of services on, right? And the perceived value or the full value was like £250, right? But you would sell the card for £40 and you'd get all these perceived high ticket values, if you like, And I remember when I had this card, when I was creating these cards and printing them, I said, wouldn't it be great if you could somehow do this on the internet?
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
And lo and behold, Groupon.
Yeah.
So, but that's another story. Anyway, yeah. The company then, it was a national company I was doing it for, and when I showed the director the card, his first comment was, right, if I wanted to make trouble with this, how would I do it?
Wow.
And with that filter, with that bias in, he was able to pinpoint some of the T's and C's and said, well, actually, we need to change this.
Nice. Yeah,
we need to change that.
That's good. Like it.
So that's where it can come in useful.
Oh, it's funny, actually, that's really triggered something in me. When I had a previous job, I was head of learning at Inkfish, if you remember. And
that's right, yeah.
And Andrew Pierce, who was the MD and
owner
of the company, he asked me to manage the ISO system for the whole of the company.
Yeah.
And I'm not a detailed person, but I know why he asked me, because he could trust me. Because when I had to be, I was. Even though I hated it and I didn't like the detail, right? I had to get the outcome that he'd requested it because of my own self-respect and my his trust and my respect for him, and the desire for the organization to be successful. I was on the same page. So you do it, don't you? And it was so painful. But I'll tell you what, I did learn that it's really important to look at all the risks for that organization and to design something to protect the organization and make it flourish. So you don't have to worry about them because there's a policy or a protocol in place that gives everyone that freedom to then be creative, innovative to a degree. Do you see what I mean? So it can grow and expand. So this is where negativity bias, I know that's not a negativity bias, but my brain had to flip towards the sort of the counter argument of how it always works.
You think like a health and safety officer.
Yes.
And it brings up something else that I think is important to notice. These aren't identity traits. They're not you.
No.
They're learned bias. Well, not so actually. Okay, the negativity bias is possibly innate. Well, it is innate. Maybe along with, I think, one other, which is the attachment, the need for attachment. The recent research suggests that we have an attachment bias to belong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All the other biases
Right.
are learned, right?
So
They're
why
not
is
us. They're
okay?
elements of our parents. So the point of making is
Yeah.
we're not doomed to have that bias.
But
And
why do people hold on to it so much though? Because a lot of people do, don't they? Why is it so strong?
I don't think they do so consciously. I think
No.
they think it's me, you know. Oh, I tend, you know, I'm naturally a positive person, or I'm naturally a negative person. You know, half glass, half full, whatever it might be. You know, I don't think people pay enough attention to the fact that it's not hardwired. It's not written in stone.
Yeah, but I also think some people don't even pay attention to the fact that they are like, displaying a
That's what I mean.
negative
It's
bias.
unconscious. It's just, you know, that's
Yeah.
the way they, you know, it's like putting on these glasses, for instance. You
Yeah.
know, negativity bias to see everything in a particular way. Everything's going
Yeah.
to, you know, and it does
Yeah.
inform how you see the world, how you see yourself, how you
Yeah.
see others.
Yeah. And the fact that you're morphing into Eric Morecambe every time I see you is equally as impressive.
Hey,
Oh, but so let's think about this right now. Talking about high performance and high performance individuals and the mindset of optimizing how you perform in your work or in sports or just everyday life. How does this relate to high performance individuals?
well, think of it in terms of NLP modeling, if you like.
What does that
If
mean to
you know,
people who
for
don't
instance,
know?
well,
Yeah.
okay, so looking at what works
Hmm.
and doing what they do, you don't have to
Okay,
try
right.
and understand it.
Yeah,
You know, pure NLP modeling is really monkey see, monkey do to a great
yeah,
extent.
yeah,
Like for you know, let's use you as an example,
yeah.
right? And let's pick the context of
It
health
was
and health.
well, let's do drawing. Remember we did that. We actually did
Oh,
that. The art
that's
thing.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
That, God, yeah, that's going back some years.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
20. But don't mention that on a podcast.
Okay. um, yeah. In fact, we actually did. John Grinder did a modeling course. You know, for it was, I think it was a 3-day course on NLP modeling,
Hmm.
and he had exemplars, you know,
Yeah,
models of excellence, should we say, in
yeah.
different contexts. One was a
Okay.
line drawer, one was a knitter, believe it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
One was a karate expert,
Hmm.
and I think the other one was a barbershop quartet. That's right, singing. Right. Anyway,
Okay.
so and the idea
Hmm.
was to go around each group, put ourselves in what he calls a know nothing state, which is
Hmm.
basically suspending all beliefs,
Yes.
what you
All
have about
bias.
yourself, or yeah, you
Yeah.
know, biases, right? And just go,
Yeah.
okay, do what they did, right?
Hmm.
Now, here's the interesting thing: I'm not particularly a good drawer. I'm a, you know, I enjoyed it when I was doing it, but
Yeah.
um, and the line drawer, when I sort of did what she did.
Yes.
In fact, I'm sure if I dig it out, I've still got I've maybe still got the drawing.
Hmm.
Don't know. Um, you know, just doing what she did. Didn't know why she was doing it. I just did what she did. Now, all right, I didn't produce it for a kill because we were drawing a model of a guy who was lying across a table. Right
Yeah.
now, it wasn't perfect by any
No,
way,
no,
shape, or in any way,
sure.
shape, or form. Right, but it was noticeably better than I would normally do,
Yeah.
just by, okay, well, so what she do? She was doing sweeping lines. She wasn't where I would go with the tongue out to the left, mm, right?
Yeah.
She was just going like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, and as I say, wasn't brilliant, but it was a lot better than I would normally do.
Hmm.
All that to say, in any context, no, look at what the high performers do, and just do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to believe, you don't have to believe that what's going on in your head, right? When you can produce the same or similar results
Hmm.
as the high performer, then if you want to, you can reverse engineer it and deconstruct it or codify it.
Yeah.
Go, okay, what does he believe? What does it, it's a different type of model.
Yeah.
It's
What are
called
their
analytical
values?
modeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Getting under the skin of it. Yeah.
It has its uses. Both has its uses.
Yeah.
Depending on the context, I would say. Give you a very, very quick example. Again, and I was talking about this on an NLP group I was on yesterday night, right? A lot of them suffer from CPST, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Right.
And a lot of them go on support networks,
Mhm.
you know, and that my CPTSD is stronger than your CPTSD, it's
Oh,
worse
right.
than
Yeah.
yours, right?
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
narcissist was better, he was worse than yours, right? No, look at the people who are successfully dealing with CPTSD, who
Mhm.
come out the other side, who are thriving
Yeah.
and do what they do.
Yeah.
For instance, the routine, establishing a routine in the morning,
Yeah.
that is taken from, people who've gone through these issues, the CPTSD, and have thrived
Interesting.
or thriving disciplines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does, and this is one of the things I was going to talk about actually, which is um we modern life does like to give people labels so they can justify themselves for the way they are or how they feel about themselves, right? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just telling it's not a bias. I'm just saying there's a lot more people with all sorts of things than there ever were, right? And then what happens is it almost does become like collecting a catalog to me of these labels. And actually, one of the things I have to spend a lot of time on is talking about what do you want instead that would make you happy, make you healthy. I want that. So then you have to start doing the stuff that's going to take you there rather than focusing where you are at the moment, because that's the bias that they're focused on. And it's not negativity, actually. It's kind of their truth, their reality, isn't it? Because someone of authority has given them this and they now
They've
have to
learned to
live
believe
through
it.
that. Yeah, they have to live
They
through
live
that.
within labels.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so unhelpful sometimes because people of authority, doctors or whatever, will not understand the impact of the consequence of those
Mm.
decisions,
It,
right?
it, it, it's interesting you say that, because there was something that's come up for me. I was talking about it yesterday, and I was reading. Um, there's an exercise I give to people sometimes. I ask them to do this thing. If they, I mentioned it earlier on in the session, I think. You have a belief
Hmm.
which isn't useful,
Hmm.
right? So that's a label, right? I'm no good at relationships. It's a concept, relationships, that's a
Yeah,
concept. Okay,
yeah,
what are the elements, right?
that's right.
Um, I mean, once we start living in that sort of label, or
Hmm.
to those labels, then
Hmm.
it confines us,
Yes,
you
that's
know,
right. Boxes is in, yeah.
boxes us in, right? So we have to look for the finer distinctions.
Yeah. The devil's in the detail.
Yeah. So okay, where is this not true? Where is
Yeah.
this not true? Where is this not true? I think that actually on its own is worth it, a podcast.
Mm. Yeah.
Creating finer distinctions in concepts
Yeah,
that you have about
absolutely.
yourself that don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Okay, cool. I like that. That's the, yeah. Yeah. And people like to well, when you've got a bias, you're generalizing a lot, aren't you? So the detail
well,
disappears.
yeah. The thing is, it's useful.
Yeah, that's right. It
Concepts
is.
are useful to a degree.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
always say a concept is useful, a label is useful
Hmm.
until it's unuseful.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when it's
yeah,
not useful, you start looking for the counterexamples to it, or
yeah,
creating experiences that prove there's counterexamples to it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if
that's
I
right.
have a if I fall into a belief that I'm just I'm just a lazy sod.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to train. I'm just lazy sod. Okay, well
Mhm.
let's go for a walk.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's start there, right? Okay, let's go for a longer walk.
yeah.
Let's go for a little jog. This makes sense. Start creating those. Well, we're going into coaching here, but
Yeah.
the very, very, very small steps that
Hmm.
move you towards where you want to go.
Yeah, and that's what high performance people do, isn't it? They always suffer setbacks. They suffer some self-doubt. They suffer from, in fact, it's funny. I don't think successful people, high performers, people go, how are you so good at something? But actually, there's one thing that motivates high performers more than anything else, and that's probably overcoming their own self-doubt. They don't like it, so what they do is they don't like that feeling. It's so uncomfortable not being capable, or that they literally create strategies that move them so far away from that there's only one other alternative.
Yeah, and I think there's also it's also a case of not not believing what they think.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a great story that, well, I say great story, the Dalai Lama, about the
Oh
Dalai
yeah.
Lama. He was being interviewed by maybe Daniel Goleman, the guy who wrote
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Emotional Intelligence, right? They were doing an
Mm,
interview, and he tells a story. The Dalai Lama tells a story about a Buddhist monk who came to him and said, "Listen, can you teach me this particular form of meditation?"
mm.
Don't know what the particular form of meditation was. And the Dalai Lama said, "No, this is for a much younger person. So, no, I don't think I can." That's how, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
more nuanced than that.
Mhm.
And he went away, and that night the monk committed suicide,
Yeah.
right? And Daniel Goleman said, does it, how do you feel about that? Does it get you down? Do you regret it? And he said, every day, I think
Yeah.
about it every day, I regret it every day,
Mhm.
but I don't let it drag me down.
Mm. That's right.
So it's not a case of no, it's fine. And I think it's a case with a lot of people as well. You can have these thoughts, but you don't have to respond to them.
Right.
You don't have to act on them.
So is that your tip to take for people to take away from this? Your tip?
Well, absolutely, yeah. You don't have to believe everything you think.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
You know, remember the 4-to-1 rule.
I
Have
like
you,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes. So the
um,
4-to-1 rule. So for every negative bias thought that you
yeah,
have, create 4 alternatives,
yeah.
which are
Recall
more
4
positive.
positive experiences.
Yeah. And
So if
I
you want
always,
to,
sorry, people struggle with positivity and negativity. Well, they don't actually, they use it too much, but sometimes, well, I can't think of anything positive. Think about something helpful, resourceful,
yeah,
kind, caring, compassionate, exciting, meaningful. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, it can be as small as seeing your grandkids on a Sunday. For
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah, I
for
ironed
somebody
my
lovely.
shirt today for work, when normally I wouldn't. Well, that's resourceful. Good.
It's a
It's
good
true.
start.
It's a
Yeah,
good start.
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
had a shower today rather than every 2 days. Good. It's a good
Which is good for
start.
you.
Yeah.
Great for you. But it actually feeds into the next one, actually, which is,
Yeah.
and I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, and I've always thought of it as woo-woo. Gratitude journaling, right?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Now, it's the thing people, oh, yeah, okay, gratitude journal. Well, with mindfulness as well, by the way, everyone thinks, well, mindfulness, it's like the panacea, it's like the answer to everything.
Yeah.
But it does, I mean, these are the other two takeaways if you want.
Mm.
Mindfulness does alter the structure of your brain.
Yes,
Now,
it
if
does.
you
Yeah.
read a guy called stuff around the guy called Daniel Siegel, he's done some research on this, and I've got some somewhere that
Mhm.
when you practice mindfulness, it thickens the area, the prefrontal cortex. But
Cortex.
here's the
Yeah.
thing: it creates a bias, believe it or not,
Hmm.
uh, to more outcome driven. You
Right.
become more outcome driven.
Yeah.
And if I remember rightly, the particular part of the brain is called the uh, the ventral lateral. I might be wrong,
Hmm.
but I think the left hand side of the brain. I know it's on that side. Yeah, I won't say it just in case I am wrong, but it's the left hand side of the prefrontal cortex.
Hmm.
Like that's why mindfulness again it it helps you deal with the emotional impact,
Yes.
negative thoughts, whatever. But
Yeah.
also gratitude, Chairman. It's not just some woo-woo thing.
Hmm.
It's there's research suggesting now that even if you put like 5, and I've done this, just 5 things every day, it
Hmm.
could be the same things, right? And it could be as small as anything.
Yeah.
As you just said, yeah, it's a sunny morning, whatever.
Hmm.
5 things you're grateful for every day over time, and when you hear it out loud, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thinking of neuroplasticity, it re-alters the structure of your brain.
Hmm.
So it helps overcome
Yeah.
negativity bias.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
So
I was,
sorry, go on.
it is just that just to finish on this, really, I just think that one of the the biggest skills people should learn, in fact, if not the biggest skill, is training your own brain.
Yeah,
And people don't do it because we're not encouraged to do that. The academic system is not encouraging people to own their own abilities and thinking patterns. It actually creates them for them.
pouring the knowledge in. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And you say knowledge. I mean, a great example is the food pyramid. Turn it upside down, and you'd be probably living twice as long. It's a marketing ploy, isn't it? So it's things like that, and it's just the ability to not hold on to things like that, as you said before, and look at counter arguments. To go, well, I'm curious. I'm interested to know if there's an alternative. What would it be? And how do I look at that? You know?
If what I believe about myself was no longer true,
Yeah.
what would it do? What would it stop doing? What would it start doing?
Yeah. That's great. That's a great way to finish that.
It is,
I like
isn't it?
that. I like that, Terry. Thank you very much.
My
So
pleasure.
with all that said, really enjoyed that, my friend, and we'll do another one of these very soon. And
Lovely.
yes, we just want to help people. We want to help people train their brains and encourage them to master the art of high performance. And the only way you can do that is by being accountable and learning all these skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, my friend, and I will speak to you
Pleasure.
soon. See you
Okay.
later.
Ta-ta.